everyone. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so you can follow along. Tonight's recap will start on page 45 where it says, "We know how he feels," and will end on page 47, however limited it was. And our study tonight will start on page 47, "We needed to ask ourselves," and end on page 49, "Rather vain of us, wasn't it?" And we will also be reading the spiritual experience from page 567 and 568 because the asterisk in the book tells us to. Do we have any announcements tonight?
Hi family, my name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic, and I just wanted to say thank you to all who attended Art's celebration of life on Saturday. And if you weren't able to be with us but you'd like to see what it is we did and what a great tribute it was, you can send either me or Trish your email address and we will gladly share it with you. Thank you.
Okay, good evening everyone. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Terry. Welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
And I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted and sharing as not to distract others or yourself. We suggest you observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. A friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share. We'll call on you in the order hands are raised.
And from the forward to the first edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are focus your breath and posture. Breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
One of you say something.
And let's have our fog light prayer.
It's up in screen share.
God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those who are lost, sick, and dying can find your love through us. Amen.
Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. I've asked Jacqueline to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Jacqueline.
Hello everyone, my name is Jacqueline. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Recovered. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered, but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergy reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime, but we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday starting at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a Big Book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the forward to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time tonight?
We've got a couple out there. Welcome.
Welcome,
everybody.
welcome. Glad you're here. And recovered alcoholics, raise your hand, please. These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm new here. Tariq.
Terry, welcome.
Tomorrow I will be 50 days sober, so.
Oh, yay!
Yes. Yeah,
Welcome home, Tariq.
thank you.
Hey, I'm Jim, and yesterday I had 18 months.
Awesome, Jim.
Galante Jim, welcome.
Yeah, I got a chip for the 18 months, and Tariq, in a couple weeks, we'll have a chip for you at your next month. So hold on there just a minute, Jim. Go.
Congratulations, Jim.
Congratulations, Jim.
Yes.
Welcome home, Jim.
All right. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable, for sure. Please remember to practice our 7th edition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. please visit our website posted in chat. Thank you, and Lord willing, I'll see you next week.
Thank you, staff. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself, nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last week we reviewed Tradition 3. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 4. Please refer to page 562 in our book, Alcoholics Anonymous. Come on in, Jamie.
Hi, family. My name is Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. And
Adelante, Jamie.
thanks, Rayo. Tradition 4, the short form. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups, or AA as a whole. And the long form. With respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience. But when its plans concern the welfare of neighboring groups also, those groups ought to be consulted. And no group, regional committee, or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole without conferring with the trustees of the General Service Board. On such issues, our common welfare is paramount. So one of the things that I love about Tradition 4 is it brings in our second tradition of being responsible to our own group conscience. And as we know, that God expresses himself through our own group conscience, and our leaders are but trusted servants. We don't govern. The other thing that I love about this is, while oftentimes you might have an issue and consult the General Service Board for guidance in something, oftentimes the answer from the General Service Board is that as long as you're not breaking the traditions and you are in accordance with what your group conscience is, we have no opinion on it, allowing each group to have their own autonomy. So, in this group, we are the Lppbbsg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group, and that's what we do in this group, is we study the Big Book. Some circles we are known as the pickle people also, because many of us have taken on pickle names. But I'm going to borrow something from Stephanie that she did a few years ago, and I hope everyone's watching my camera, because if we want to call ourselves the Tinfoil Hat Group, we can do that. And there's nobody in Alcoholics Anonymous that says we can't be the Tinfoil Hat Group. The thing that I have to remember is that the great importance of this is that we don't affect and have adverse conditions that will affect other groups in either our neighborhoods, our local towns, or our districts, or Area 64 Assembly, which we happen to be part of. we don't want to do anything that is going to reflect badly on Alcoholics Anonymous. When I originally started this group, COVID hadn't quite hit us yet, and there were some people in town that were real disgruntled about me starting this book study. And they said, well, it's in conflict with ours. And I took an honest look at it, and I said, actually, it's really not. Number one, we're 5 miles away from where you are, 5-6 miles away from where you are. If I was starting at 2 doors down from where you are, that would certainly be in conflict. And I said, the other thing is, we're drawing from 3 other communities that don't even come to your book study, so therefore not in conflict. But it was certainly something to take an important look at. One of the things, and part of our policy in this group, and we don't really have bylaws or anything in this group, but what we do is we use common sense, we use the traditions and the 12 concepts of service work. We want to leave Alcoholics Anonymous better off than how we found it. And we want to be an active contributing group to Alcoholics Anonymous rather than take something away from it that might harm Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole. Because our mission in this particular group, since we're just a bunch of God's kids trying to help some of God's other kids, is we want Alcoholics Anonymous to be here for the next sick and suffering person that comes in the rooms. It's not about us, but it certainly is about what we do. And that's what I have for you on Tradition 4 this week. Thank you for allowing me to be of service.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay, now for our weekly installment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One of the things we often hear is, Jim, what we often hear is, don't drink and go to meetings. Jim, can you tell us what it says on page
I'd be happy to. Jim F. an
17,
alcoholic.
paragraph 2.
Thank you. Unlike the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy and escape from disaster does not subside as we go our individual ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us. But that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined.
Thank you, Jim. As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
In order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Tonight, we're going to start our recap on page 45, which will be read tonight by Nancy, followed by our study portion, which will be read by Billy, and we'll also have a reading from Appendix II, which will be read by Joanne.
Okay, after the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back on our study portion that is going to be read by Billy. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer, split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is we're going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the study material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may hear a timer beep to let you know that your time is finished.
However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, with your sponsor, please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages study, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And a quick look at how we got here. Like Jamie said, this meeting started in January of 2020, before COVID shut the world down. So it did start out as an in-person meeting. And then when COVID hit, like most of our other meetings, we stopped for a little while, and then we came online, first as hybrid, and then 100% on Zoom. And we use this question and answer format by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff through the entire Big Book that we study. And we start on the title page where we see our first promise. How many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. And then we study through the preface, the forewords, the doctor's opinion, and every page and every line from Bill's story on page 1 all the way through A Vision for You, ending on page 164. We also read in the same format Dr. Bob's Nightmare, and then we spend 4 weeks on the traditions. There are 3 different times the asterisk refers us in the reading, like it will tonight, to Appendix II, a spiritual experience. And we read that as part of our study. And then we also end on week 96, the final week of our study, reading the spiritual experience as a standalone study, because the spiritual aspect of this program is so important. And we've got to have that connection with our higher power. And then once we finish that, we circle back and we do it all over again. We're in our 6th year of being a meeting. We are really just starting our 4th time going through the Big Book. We're on week 31 tonight of 96 weeks, so we're still pretty close to the beginning. And I hope I see you all come back again next week and weeks after that.
Great job, Trish. Glad it was your turn. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website and our YouTube channel.
And Nancy, come on in with our recap, please.
Nancy, alcoholic. Oh, I'm looking at page 45, right?
Yes.
We know how he feels. We have shared his honest doubts and prejudice. Some of us have been violently anti-religion. To others, the Lord God brought up a particular idea of him with which someone had tried to impress them during childhood. Perhaps we rejected this particular conception because it seemed inadequate. With that rejection, we imagined we had abandoned the God idea entirely. We were bothered with the thought that faith and dependence upon a power beyond ourselves was somewhat weak, even cowardly. We look upon this world of warring individuals, warring theological systems, an inexplicable calamity with deep skepticism. We look askance at many individuals who claim to be godly. How could a supreme being have anything to do with it at all? And who could comprehend the supreme being anyhow? Yet in other moments, we found ourselves thinking when enchanted by a starlight night. Who then made all this? There was a feeling of awe and wonder, but it was fleeting and soon lost. Yes, we agnostics temperament have had these thoughts and experiences. Let us make haste to reassure you. We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another conception of God. Our own conception, however, inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect contact with Him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of the creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed of a new sense of power, direction, provided we took other simple steps. We found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek Him. To us, the realm of spirit is broad, roomy and all-inclusive, and never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. It is open, we believe, to all men. When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. This applies too to other spiritual expressions which you find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against the spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. At the start, this was all we needed to commence spiritual growth, to effect our first conscious relation with God as we understood Him. Afterward, we found ourselves accepting many things which then seemed entirely out of reach. That was growth. But if we wish to grow, we had to begin somewhere. So we used our own conception, however limited it was. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And before Billy comes in and reads our study, I could use one or two more hands. Otherwise, we'll use just the four that we have. So come on in, Billy.
We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say that he does believe, or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. That was great news to us, for we had assumed we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith which seemed difficult to believe. When people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, "I wish I had what that man has. I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believes." But I cannot accept as surely true the many articles of faith which are so plain to him. So it was comforting to learn that we could commence at a simpler level. Besides a seemingly inability to accept much on faith, we often found ourselves handicapped by obstinacy, sensitiveness, and unreasoning prejudice. Many of us have been so touchy that even casual reference to spiritual things made us bristle with antagonism. This sort of thinking had to be abandoned. Though some of us resisted, we found no great difficulty in casting aside such feelings. Faced with alcoholic destruction, we soon became as open-minded on spiritual matters as we had tried to be on other questions. In this respect, alcohol was a great persuader. It finally beat us into a state of reasonableness. Sometimes this was a tedious process. We hope no one else will be prejudiced for as long as some of us were. The reader may still ask why he should believe in a power greater than himself. We think there are good reasons. Let us have a look at some of them. The practical individual of today is a stickler for facts and results. Nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories of all kinds, provided they are firmly grounded in fact. We have numerous theories, for example, about electricity. Everybody believes them without a murmur of doubt. Why this ready acceptance? Simply because it's impossible to explain what we see, feel, direct, and use without a reasonable assumption as a starting point. Everybody nowadays believes in scores of assumptions for which there is good evidence, but no perfect visual proof. And does not science demonstrate that visual proof is the weakest proof? It is being constantly revealed. As mankind studied the material world, that outward appearances are not inward reality at all. To illustrate, the prosaic steel girder is a mass of electrons whirling around each other at an incredible speed. These tiny bodies are governed by precise laws, and these laws hold true throughout the material world. Science tells us so. We have no reason to doubt it. When, however, the perfectly logical assumption is suggested that underneath the material world and life as we see it, there is an all-powerful, guiding, creative intelligence, right there, our perverse streak comes to the surface, and we laboriously set out to convince ourselves it isn't so. We read wordy books and indulge in windy arguments, thinking we believe this universe needs no God to explain it. Were our contentions true, it would follow that life originated out of nothing, means nothing, and proceeds nowhere. Instead of regarding ourselves as intelligent agents, spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation, we agnostics and atheists chose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end of all. Rather vain of us, wasn't it?
Thank you, Billy. So now we're going to go back to the section that Billy read and use our question and answer format up to where the asterisk is referring us to spiritual experience. And then Joanne will come in, read Appendix II, Spiritual Experience. Our same question answers will answer those questions. Then we'll come back to page 47 and finish out the study. So our batting order tonight, and I'll go over that again as we get there. Our batting order in questions tonight will be Sheila, Nancy, Jim, Rick F., Jacqueline, Joanne, Kenny, Jim H., and Jamie. And thank you everyone for your service. Please go ahead and unmute now so that you're ready to go at your turn. And Sheila, the first question is for you. And what question do we need to ask ourselves? And please read 2 sentences.
We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself?
Thank you.
I'm going to jump in with a comment. A very wise man once said, I believe I would rather try to live my life thinking there is a God and find out that I am wrong than to try and live my life thinking there is no God and find out I was wrong.
Thank you, Terry. Very thought-provoking. And Nancy, coming to you. As soon as we can say yes to that question, where are we?
As soon as a man can say that he does believe, or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him that he is on his way.
Thank you. And Rick, what has been proven?
It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built.
Okay, see the footnote. Please be sure to read Appendix II on spiritual experience. Note Bill's plea for us to read Appendix II. He told us to do it on page 25 and again on page 27. but he knew we were not good about following instructions, so now he says, please. It's hard to say no to a begging alcoholic, but we have been there and done it, so we're going to do it again.
So now we're going to jump over to page 567, following those instructions by Bill, and Joanne is going to come in and read the spiritual experience for us.
Trish, can I say something real quick before Joanne comes in? Remember, folks, everybody who's reading has a hot mic, so beware aware of your background noises behind you because the recording will pick it up. Thank you.
Come on in, Joanne.
Okay, Joanne Agon, spiritual experience. Okay, the term spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon carefully reading shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet, it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experience must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheaval. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook. Among our rapid growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformation, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experience of William James called the educational variety because they develop slowly over a period of time. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself. He finally realized that he had undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource which they personally identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God conscious. Most empathetic, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honesty facing his problem in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerant or belligerent denial. We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-minded are the essential of recovery, but these are indispensable. There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all argument, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Herbert Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. So we're now going to do the question portion for spiritual experience, and then when we're done, we'll return back to page 47, and Terry will start us off with a comment.
The only significant change that has been made in the basic text, the first 164 pages plus the doctor's opinion of the big book, is the one that produced the need for Appendix II. 12 step 12 in the first printing read, having had a spiritual experience as a result of this course of action. In reading Bill's story, we read where he had a sudden spiritual experience as a result of these steps. Dr. Bob, on the other hand, had a very slow developed spiritual awakening. Many of those reading the first printing of the big book were not experiencing Bill's hot flash and felt they were missing something. To correct that misconception, Bill reworded step 12 to what it now reads and added Appendix 2 as an explanation.
Thank you, Terry. So our first question in the spiritual experience will be coming to Jim F. And it is, this conclusion is what? And please read the first 2 paragraphs.
Spiritual experience. The terms spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book, which upon careful reading shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yet it is true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous.
Thank you. And Jacqueline, in the stories in the first chapters, which spiritual event was described?
In the first few chapters, a number of sudden revolutionary changes are described.
Thank you. And Joanne, did most alcoholics believe that they too must have a spiritual experience?
Though it was not our intention to create such impression, many alcoholics nevertheless conclude that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God conscious all at once by vast change in feeling and outlook.
Thank you so much. And Kenny, are such transformations frequent?
Among our growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, such transformations, though frequent, or by no means the rule.
Thank you so much. And Jim H., you get a 2-part question. A, what do most of our readers experience? And B, why did William James call them that?
Most of our experiences are what the psychologist William James calls the educational variety, because they develop slowly over a period of time.
Thank you. And Sheila, coming back to you. Very often, who are the first to notice the change that has taken place?
Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the difference long before he is himself.
So true. And Nancy, a 2-part question. A, what does the alcoholic finally realize? And B, could he have accomplished this himself?
He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone.
Thank you. And Rick, what could seldom have been accomplished by self-discipline?
What often takes place in a few months could seldom have been accomplished by years of self-discipline.
Thank you. And Jim F., another 2-part question. A, with few exceptions, what do we all tap into? And B, what do they identify this to be?
With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource, which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves.
Thank you so much. And Jacqueline, what do most of us think?
Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of a spiritual experience.
Thank you. And Joanne, what do religious folks call it?
Our More religion member call it God conscious.
Thank you. And Kenny, a two-part question. What do we wish to say emphatically to any alcoholic? And B, what is one condition the alcoholic must face?
Most emphatically, we must say to any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problem in the light of all experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to spiritual concepts.
Thank you so much. And Jim H., what will defeat an alcoholic?
We can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial.
So true. And Sheila, back to you. What is it that no one should have difficulty with?
We find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program.
Thank you so much. And Nancy, what are the essentials of recovery?
Willingness, honesty, open-mindedness are the essential of recovery.
Thank you. And Rick, how important are they?
There is a principle which is
But one more sentence before that, but these.
willingness. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry, but these are indispensable.
Thank you. And Jim F., what will keep a person in everlasting ignorance?
There is a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt prior to investigation. Herbert Spencer.
Thank you. And now let's turn back to our study on page 47, and I'll give you a quick moment to get there. And Jacqueline, you will be having our first question when we get there.
Me.
And Jacqueline, your question is, why was this great news for us? And our sentence is going to start, that was great news to us.
Okay, that was great news to us, for we had assumed we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith which seemed difficult to believe.
Thank you so much. And Joanne, when recovered alcoholics presented spiritual approaches to our problem, what did we say? In 3 sentences, please.
When people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, I wish I had what they, I wish I had what that man had. I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believed. But I cannot accept as surely true the many articles of faith which are so plain to him.
Thank you. And Kenny, what was comforting to learn?
So it was comforting to learn that we could commence at a simpler level.
Thank you so much. Jim H., a 2-part question. What were we unable to do, and what was our handicap?
Besides the seeming inability to accept much on faith, we often found ourselves handicapped by obstinacy, sensitiveness, and unreasoning prejudice.
Thank you. And Sheila, coming back to you. How do many of us react to the mention of spiritual things?
Many of us have been so touchy that even casual reference to spiritual things made us bristle with antagonism.
Thank you. Nancy, is this sort of thinking okay?
This sort of thinking has to be abandoned.
Thank you. And Rick, even though some of us resisted the idea, what happened?
Though some of us resisted, we found no great difficulty in casting aside such feelings.
Thank you so much. And Jim F., another 2-part question for you. A, faced with what? B, we became what?
Faced with alcoholic destruction, we soon became as open-minded on spiritual matters as we had tried to be on other questions.
Thank you.
Does this sound like step 1 and step 2?
Sure does. And Jacqueline, what persuaded us?
In this respect, alcohol was a great persuader.
Yes, it was. Thank you. And Joanne, it did what?
It felt Peter is not safe or reasonable.
Yes. And Kenny, a two-part question. A, did this happen easily? And B, what is one of our hopes?
Sometimes this was a tedious process. We hope no one else will be prejudiced for as long as some of us were.
So true. And Jim H., what may the reader still ask?
The reader may still ask why he should believe in a power greater than himself.
Thank you. And back to you, Sheila. What kind of reasons are there?
We think there are good reasons.
Yes, there are. Nancy, what are we going to do?
Let us have a look at some of them.
Thank you. And Rick, who likes facts and results?
The practical individual of today is a stickler for facts and results.
That's so true. And Jim F., another two-part question for you. A, at this point in history, what are we willing to accept? And B, they must be based on what?
Nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories of all kinds, provided they are firmly grounded in fact.
Thank you. And Jacqueline, what theory does Bill use as an example?
We have numerous theories, for example, about electricity.
Thank you so much. And Joanne, who doubts this power?
Everybody believes them without a murmur of doubt.
So true. And Kenny, why? 2 sentences, please.
Why this readily accepted? Simply because it is impossible to explain what we see, feel, direct and use without a reasonable assumption as to a starting point.
Thank you so much. And Jim H., a two-part question for you. A, everybody now believes what? And B, but what is lacking?
Everybody nowadays believes in scores of assumptions for which there is good evidence, but no perfect visual proof.
So true. And Sheila, what has science demonstrated?
And does not science demonstrate the visual proof is the weakest proof?
True. Nancy, what is constantly being revealed? And please stop at the colon.
It is being constantly revealed as mankind studies the material world that outward appearances are not inward reality to all. Do I go on?
To the colon, yes.
Okay, to illustrate.
Thank you. And Rick, what is a steel girder?
The prosaic steel girder is a mass of electrons whirling around each other at incredible speed.
So true. And Jim F., do we doubt this theory? 3 sentences, please.
These tiny bodies are governed by precise laws, and these laws hold true throughout the material world. Science tells us so. We have no reason to doubt it.
Thank you. And Jacqueline, what happens when someone wants to talk about God?
When, however, the logical assumption is suggested that underneath the material world and life, as we see it, there is an all-powerful, guiding, creative, intelligent right there. Right there, our perverse streak comes to the surface, and we laboriously set out to convince ourselves it isn't so.
Thank you. And Joanne, what thinking are we trying to support when we read books and engage in arguments?
We read wordy books, and it does in windy argument. speaking, we believe this universe needs no God to explain.
Thank you. And Kenny, if we were right, what would be true?
Well, contention's true. It would follow that life originated out of nothing, meaning nothing, and proceeds nowhere.
Thank you. And Jim H., a two-part question again. A, how should we consider ourselves? And B, how do some of us consider ourselves?
Instead of regarding ourselves as intelligent agents, spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation, we agnostics and atheists choose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end of all.
Thank you. And Sheila, you get our last question. That rather egotistical of us?
Rather vain of us, wasn't it?
If we are so damn smart, why can't we stay sober?
It's true. So we are now going to open up for comments. If you have experience with the portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. And also please be mindful of your time and that others may have their hands raised and are waiting to share. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. So we're now going to open up for comments, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences based on what was just read. And Sheila, your hand is still up. Is that for a question or did you want to comment?
Well, since it's up, I'll start sharing. I haven't thought about anything yet, but I love, of course, everything in this book is amazing, but I love, what some of the verbiage they use to name God, all powerful, guiding, creative intelligence, and creative spirit of the universe. And I've been to so many meetings and usually don't go back to them. So a lot of people in meetings have a problem with it when I say God. I just use the word God because that's exactly, it's just a 3-letter beautiful word and it sums it all up. And but I think it's really important as a newcomer for me. I had the white light experience 8 months in, but I had the willingness, I sought, and I really worked at trying to do what other people did and taking suggestions, but that whole God is everything or God is nothing thing, I didn't really get it until 8 months in, and when I got that, then I had that white light experience. I got through my steps in 4 and 5. I just remember the world becoming just brighter and more vivid, kind of like Ebby, and when he's the man on the bed in the classic picture with a light shining in his face, and then the doctors come in. Well, what happened? I found religion. God found me when I finished my 5th step, and I fully conceded and I fully gave in that I was going to give everything to this amazing, beautiful power. And then my life just began to transform, and I love that, what it says, that outward appearance is not inward reality at all. Because when I came in, I defined myself by outward appearance, vanity, pride, all the things, that I lost. And when I lost them all, I felt like a nothing, like the hole in the donut, nothingness. But as I grew closer to God, I began to feel a light growing, and that ember in my heart sparked, and it grew into a flame. And now today I'm 9.5 years in. I came in at 62, and I feel full always of joy
And if I begin to dwindle at all, I know exactly what to do. Turn to God, pray, meditate, and or just call someone and talk about God with them, you know. And this program is such a beautiful program, and I have a lot of passion for it. Thank you for letting me share. I wasn't ready, but I hope I did okay.
Thank you, Sheila. Hi, Billy. Come on in.
Hey everybody, I'm now called Name Billy. I struggled with the God word. That first sponsor and I, we spent quite a bit of time plowing through lots of different definitions. And I remember her reciting that whole list of potential ideas. But the thing is I settled on the word God. And because it can mean so many other things. Good orderly direction, group of drunks, guaranteed overnight delivery. When I pray for help, doesn't even have to be overnight. And so if I'm not saying God, I'm generally saying universe. Great Spirit. I used to say, I forgot the name of it now, the Great Kahuna. Partly because I wanted to be in Hawaii. However, God's just faster and easier. And most of the people that have been around for more than a minute, they get it. We don't fight about that word anymore. And I'm grateful for that. I've known a few people who do want to fight about that word, and I just let them be, you know. Because I'm not going to change their minds, and I'm certainly not going to give myself a migraine trying to fight with somebody about their concept versus mine. You know, it works if I let it. That's what I have come to understand about my higher power. It doesn't work when I force it to work. It works when I let it. Thanks.
Thanks, Billy. Who's next?
Rick's got his hand up, Trish.
Hello, everyone. Good to see us again. Rick Alcoholic. This chapter means more and more every time I read it. I used to think early on that it was for those who needed to search for God. I did not need to search for God. I believed in a God. I grew up with mom and dad took the family to church, and so I did always believe in God. I also never thought of a punishing God. So when I came to AA, and I was told, especially by, a few, but especially by my first sponsor, he would always put it this way: just invite him in. Just open the door and say, come in. And I had a big fear in that because I believed in a God that would be all helpful and loving. I feared asking him. The fear is that it would work. I was not ready to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. I was coming here still thinking there's got to be a way to a better life than holding on to the bottle. That's how I was thinking, really. Letting go of the drink. you know, I did not, I came to AA and did not have to separate from friends who drank too much. I had friends who knew they could drink away a weekend and then just not bother with it for quite as the way I did, the way I always drank. They didn't drink like me. They could take it or leave it, and that's what I wanted. But today I prefer what this program gives to me, because I've learned, I've accepted, and I'm grateful that I've accepted the disease that I have. Do I like the disease? Do I love the disease? No. But today I'm very grateful for the acceptance of knowing who I am. So I turn to him every day. And the way I believe it works in my life is that I'm here with you folks. He doesn't babysit me throughout the day so I don't drink. I ask him for his help, and he drops me off here. And so, yeah, I turn to him every day. And I always ask him to show me who I can help. Anyways, I've gone on too long. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Hi, Steph.
Hey there, Stephanie, grateful recovered alcoholic. And God was always a part of my life. And the God that I would be praying to in the morning with my hangover and I felt like just a failure, a disappointment, to God. And it was through working the steps that I learned how to give myself to God. And that changed the whole dynamic of my relationship with God. And I do have a relationship with God. And He is my Alpha and Omega. But it turned it from me just feeling like a miserable lump of crap into, like I said, learning to give myself to Him, turning myself over to Him, everything to Him. As without Him, I couldn't do it. If I could, I would have done it. Thanks, bye.
Thanks, Steph. Hi, Larry.
Yeah, I'm Larry. I'm an alcoholic. I know when I came into this program, I felt so out of touch in the spiritual realm. And, I knew everything there was about God. And I think knowing so much hindered me. Knowing so much of what I knew hindered me in my growth, especially when I first came in, because I was so anti-religious. I was fed up with church, with church people. And, that prejudice really tainted me with, anything about God, because I felt like I had no way of reaching God and in my life for reasons, personal reasons of things that I had been involved in post alcoholism. And so, but through this program and through my sponsor, which my first spiritual higher power was my sponsor's God, and I prayed to my sponsor's God, and I did my steps for his first steps and everything, in that by my sponsor's God. But when I did my first steps, and especially my fourth step, when I looked at myself and the things that I had fault in and everything, what it did was it took a lot of my focus off all the things that I had done, and he had a category in that, there was a question that he always made me ask, and it was, when I was to forgive some people, there was a category question that he made me ask was, have you ever done anything as bad or worse than this person that you needed somebody to forgive you for? And I had to answer yes to almost every one of those, and it got me over quickly of my prejudice against religious folk. And I had to take them off the list, and so, and then from there, I experienced a God of my own conscious understanding, which became kind of a yes God to me. I just prayed that God do this for me and do that for me, and it worked for a long time, but in that film. But my God consciousness was very progressive. It didn't happen overnight for me. It took a long time, but I grew into it, and in doing so, I seem to be a lot more inclusive about people, and how they viewed about God. I became less and less judgmental about people's acceptance of God, because I knew very well who I believed in and what I believed in. But finally, over time and a lot of work, I developed a real relationship with God. And Alcoholics Anonymous allowed me that time and that ability to do that. And that's why I'm so grateful for this program. That's all I got.
Thanks, Larry. Hi, Jamie.
Good evening, family. My name's Jamie, very grateful, recovered alcoholic, and good to be with all of you this evening. So, we did 2 different readings tonight. We did this from We Agnostics, but we also did the spiritual experience. So, what I have come to believe over the years is that the chapter to the agnostic becomes a pathway for me to let go of old ideas and old beliefs and open my heart and mind to new ideas and new beliefs. In other words, I don't know every damn thing in this world, folks. And when I think I do, that's nothing but my pride and ego. And I thought I knew about everything, but the simple truth is that I don't. For example, the prosaic steel girder is a mass of electrons whirling around each other at incredible speed. For many years, I did not know what prosaic meant until I looked it up. Prosaic just means ordinary. So the ordinary steel beams you see in building bridges and so on with, that's a steel girder that they build skyscrapers with and so on. And you know, that steel girder can be in a demolition and it can get bent. It can be in a high fire temperature, like a skyscraper being on fire, and it will bend and twist. But even when that happens, it still has the same amount of electrons in it. The only way to change it, the amount that's in it, is to cut it. And then what you have is you have two separate steel girders that have their own amount of electrons, and then the little pile of metal that's at the bottom from cutting it with a cutting torch, that has its own amount of electrons too. Still the same amount of electrons, I've just divided it now into different places. But I didn't know that until I started looking at it. So even though I am a man of great faith, I am, this chapter always offers me something, even being a faithful man. And I like that. So I'm going to move on to the spiritual experience for a second. And the very last part of the spiritual experience before the Herbert Spencer quote. We always hear people say in Alcoholics Anonymous, the how of the program, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, but that's not what the book really says. The book says just what we read tonight, willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. So it's not the how of the program, but it's the who of the program. Who's the who? It's not Cindy Lou Who. The who becomes the God of our own understanding, that we build a relationship with through the process of taking the steps. I've had a few spiritual experiences and several spiritual awakenings, but here's what I can tell you that happened with me. As I took the first 11 steps, I had a spiritual experience within each individual step. And how do I know that? Because there's something inside, attitudes and ideas within myself that changed. Wasn't a big flash of light, but it was that mental goose flesh, the hair standing up on my arm, getting a chill up my spine, and I qualify those as spiritual experiences. So by the time I get to step 12, I have had 11 separate individual spiritual experiences that collectively have awakened my sleeping spirit. That's pretty simple to me. That's language I can understand. So as I continue to take the steps again and again and again, and I continue to do them with others, I get a new spiritual experience every time I do that. And that's the beauty of what we have to offer. My sponsor and I have often talked about, and I'm going to go a couple of seconds over here, often talked about, we have noticed that a whole lot of people in Alcoholics Anonymous do not get the full benefit of what our program of recovery has to offer us, because they only apply it to their alcoholism, not the other spiritual maladies and difficulties that they have in life. So when I apply this program to everything that I struggle with in life, then those things straighten out as well, and I straighten out mentally and physically, because I'm taking and I'm putting a program of action into my life and practicing it in all my affairs. Thank you.
Ryo!
You, Jamie.
Good morning. My name is Rayo, and I am a borracho from Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm also a Vietnam veteran. And in Vietnam, they didn't call it a war, they just called it Vietnam. But they would take us out, put us on a truck, take us out to a hill, and the hill was, the number on the hill was the number of meters tall that it was. It wouldn't even have a name. But when we got there, the most dangerous person coming up on the hill was the person that was willing to die on that hill, because he would go to any length to kill as many as he could and never back down. And I relate that to AA, that like my sponsor, my second sponsor, who became my second sponsor, he used to say, you know, I thought you said you were willing to go to any length to get it. And I'd say, yeah, but, and but he would talk about an upside down pyramid where the top part are all the members in AA, and the point on the bottom is the chairperson that is here to just be of service. And that's what we have there. There's a president in Mexico in 1917. He said, "Respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz," which means respect for the other person's rights is peace. And that's what we have here. A true democracy and true respect. We show each other the respect of, you want to call him God, you want to call him a group of drunks. There was a lady that called it Gus, guy upstairs. It doesn't matter in a true democracy what you call him. There was a person that said many years ago, my sobriety date is March 3rd, 1988. And there was a guy that said, you know, fear knocked, faith answered, and there was nobody there. And that's what I have to do, and carry that message, that if fear is knocking and faith answers, there will be nobody there. And where do I go? Where do I find God's children? I find God's children where God's children take their children to play. And this is, I look at all these little squares, I'm looking at the face of God. And where do I go? I go here, where God's children take their children to play. And I got 1 minute and 30 seconds, or 1 hour and 36 minutes, something like that. Anyway, God bless you. Tanya, I'm going to say it. God bless you. I love you. I couldn't even say I love you, because my mother, who beat me like a rented mule, used to beat me, and I would say, I love you, to make her stop beating me. Now I can say it. I love you all. Thank you for my sobriety. Thank you, Tanya, for giving me a heads up on this meeting. Gracias. God bless you, and I'll pass.
Thank you, Ryo. There are no hands, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I'm Trish, and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm going to look at the first sentence for this week's study and the first sentence for next week's study. So I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. And it said we needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? And when I came in, I wanted nothing to do with God. I didn't want to be open to the fact that there was a power greater than myself. And the first sentence we're going to read in next week's study says, we who have traveled this dubious path beg you to lay aside prejudice, even against organized religion. And that's where I got stuck. because I grew up in organized religion, being told who God was, what to believe in, what I was supposed to do, what God would do if I did that, and what God would do if I didn't do that. And that wasn't a God I wanted anything to do with. So when I came in and I saw on the walls, turn my will and my life over to God, I wanted nothing to do with that. And then when I got to the first sentence tonight, do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? And I bring that back to where Ebby was talking to Bob, or talking to Bill, why don't you come up with your own God? That opened up a whole new world for me. And that's when I started changing. And while I didn't see the change, I couldn't see, feel, recognize the change, our second reading tonight, Spiritual Experience, tells me quite often it's the friends of the newcomer who are aware of the difference long before he is himself. Other people saw the changes, even though I didn't see them. I remember sitting at home talking to my mom one day, and this was before I came in, when I was still drinking, and we were having this conversation. I don't know what had gone on, but something had happened. And she told me she could always rely on me because I was so much stronger than my two sisters were, and she knew I would be okay and I would get through anything. And in my head, I'm crying out, Mom, you don't get it, it's the booze, I'm not dealing with anything. Couple years later, we're sitting in the same kitchen, having that same conversation, and she's telling me how much stronger I am than my sisters, and she knows I'll be okay no matter what happens. And I hadn't told her about being in the program yet, and in my head I'm screaming, Mom, it's the program and it's God. I'm not doing anything. It's all God. The change in me that she recognized, not knowing where that change came from, but not just knowing there was something there. And I was able at that point for the first time to recognize that God was in there and doing something for me. Which, in that next sentence, he finally realizes that he had undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought about by himself alone. I couldn't have done that on my own. I couldn't have gone from booze is the answer to all my problems to God is the answer to all my problems on my own. I had to have God's help and direction in that, and I had to have your guys' help and direction in that. And then getting back to the second part of tonight's study, it talks about when people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we say, I wish I had what that man has. I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believes. But I cannot accept as surely true the many articles of faith which are so plain to him. And I would look at that and look at other people and say, I wish I could believe what they believe. I wish I could do what they did. I wish I could do this, that, and the other thing. And then I had to realize that's not my journey. What they do is their journey with their God. What I do is my journey with my God. And what I do is working for me. And what I do in my conversation and my prayers and my meditation time with God has changed me to who I am today. If I were to take somebody else's spirituality and try to fit that into my life, it might not work for me. But I know what I do today is working for me today. It might change next week. But for today, I can look at somebody else and say, that might be a goal for me one day to do that. But right now, I'm going to do what I'm doing because that's working for me and God. There was a time I didn't want to talk to God at all. People would ask me in the room, said, you pray today? God and I are in a speaking time. And that was often my response. But now when people say, have you talked to God about it? Yeah, I have. I've talked to God. I've prayed to God. Now I'm looking for another bit more input and information because I've been guided to talk to you now. But as long as I have God there, as long as I'm willing to have God there, the God of my understanding, not the God I was told to believe in as a kid, I know I'm going to be okay. Jacqueline, come on in.
Hi. Hey everyone, my name is Jacqueline, and I'm an alcoholic. And thank you for all the shares tonight. I was just looking at it. Well, first of all, I would like to think, and I do believe that I was taken to a place to become willing to do something different. I didn't know anything about how it works or the who. But I know I was introduced to this program in 1980, and I didn't read this paragraph about Herbert Spencer. There's a principle which is a bar against all information, which is proof against all arguments, and which cannot fail to keep a man in everlasting ignorance. That principle is contempt to pride to investigation. And I know when I came around in 1980, my brother, he brought me to a couple of meetings, and I really didn't want to have no parts of you all. I didn't care what you all was talking about, and my sick thinking told me I could stop drinking on my own. I didn't need no help. But I came I was taken to a place to become willing back in 1984, and when I got here, I was broken. I was broken, spiritual, mentally, and physically. And I didn't see the word God in treatment. And I don't even know if they talked about God in treatment, but I do know when I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they would have the steps and traditions on the wall, and I saw that word God, and I said, oh, here we go again. Because I was one that evaded that conversation, for a long, long time. And I like what it says right here. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honesty, facing his problem in the light of our own experience, can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual concepts. And I was taken to a place to become willing, and today I know that was a divine providence, which I want to call God, because I came and I sat with you all, even though I didn't like that word God, and our basic texts say we're going to talk about God anyway, but I had gotten that far in the literature, but I saw it on the wall. But I had to come and I had to sit, and I had to listen to you all share about how God worked in y'all life. The evidence, and that first evidence that I heard was you all found a way out. And you had a solution to your problem. And y'all was that power, greater than myself, because here was a group of people doing what I couldn't do. And y'all was accepting a lot of things that, that I couldn't accept. But I kept coming back. And as I kept coming back, I began to get honest with myself, because I had to lay aside a lot of prejudice. I had a lot of prejudice against God. God took a lot of my loved ones from me. I thought the hands of God was heavy. I thought God was unjust. So it took time for me. It took time. And as I kept as I kept coming back, I'm making sure, as I kept coming back, I began to believe in that God. I began to talk. I began to ask God, even though I was praying, God helped me to stay sober today. And thank God that I have small comprehension of, I know humans don't give me the breath of life, but that God has kept me away from a drink, one day at a time for 4 decades. And he had done a lot, a supreme being, the creator of the universe, or whatever you want to call it. And my sponsor told me that that's a personal relationship that I have with my God. But I had to come in here being willing and then honest, and then I began to open up to this power. Thanks.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Jamie?
I'm just going to jump back in with something real quick, folks. My apologies for the double dip, but since we talked so much about God tonight, and we do on a general basis, I think it's important. Many times we bypass the preface and the forewords in the book because people just want to get right into the steps. They want to get cured, right? Well, there is no cure for alcoholism. I'll have it till the day I die. But when we talk of God, we don't mean in a religious context. We mean it in a spiritual context, whatever your God is. And I don't care what you call your God. I don't care if you have ruby, begonia, and furthermore matorgamite as your God. And there's probably only a couple of people in this room who know who ruby, begonia, and furthermore matorgamite were. I'm betting Ryo's one of them. But I want to just share just a quick passage from the foreword to the second edition, and this is why the forewords are so important for us to read, to have understanding of how it all came together. Page XX, I'm starting in the second paragraph. Another reason for wide acceptance of AA was the ministration of friends in medicine, religion, and the press, together with innumerable others who became our able and persistent advocates. Without such support, we could have made only the slowest progress. Some of the recommendations of AA's early medical and religious friends will be found further on in this book. And then it goes on to say, Alcoholics Anonymous is not a religious organization. Neither does AA take any particular medical point of view, though we cooperate widely with the men of medicine as well as the men of religion. And I think that's really important, because if somebody talks about God in a meeting, or somebody says that Jesus is their higher power, all of a sudden you hear people going, oh, you can't say that in AA. Really? Tell me where it says that in the book. Tell me where it says that in the literature, because that just isn't true. No, we're not religious. We're not endorsing religion or anything, but we certainly cooperate, and without those things, Alcoholics Anonymous may very well not exist for us today. And we all have a responsibility to be in good stewardship to preserve it for those who are yet to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Since we have no other hands up, Terry, would you like to come in and read our closing?
Okay, this is from page 164 of the big book. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you could do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Freely give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
Thank you. And we will go ahead and close out in our usual fashion. And for those of you who are new who have not been with us, since we can't stand up and join hands around the corner to pray out, what we do in this meeting is we hold our hands up and we connect with each other through prayer on the screen that way. And we're going to take a moment of silence for all those still suffering inside and outside of these rooms, especially those who may die tonight, either because they haven't found their way to us, or because they came and they weren't ready, or they didn't want it and they left. So I'll take a moment of silence, and then I'll ask you to unmute and join me in the Lord's Prayer. So here's your moment. Thank you. And who brings us from shame to grace if we let Him? Our Father,
Father,
Lord in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever.
Amen.
Thank
Good
you,
night, everyone.
folks.
Thank you.